court sometimes just rubber stamp these cases?
I'd like to say no, but I think that it is true.
In which a 4-year-old child was taken from his parents through an emergency removal. And the really discerning thing about it was there was nobody in CPS, the hospital, the doctor, or the court that had ever seen or talked to the child, the parent, neighbors, relatives, or anybody that had any firsthand knowledge of any wrongdoing. And they took the child and started the process for permanently terminating parental rights.
We've got this on audio, him admitting to perjuring himself on a court document. And we take this to the sheriff, and the sheriff says, sorry, CPS agents are immune in their duties, acting in their office and in their duties. We can't go after them. And he called the district attorney and the attorney general. They say, sorry, we can't do anything until there's a police report. And so in fact, CPS agents are allowed to lie, to perjure themselves under oath to steal your children.
Single mothers who lost their children and who have been without their children for months on end now over false drug tests, fabricated drug test reports.
Michigan's Child Protective Services Agency has 60 days to submit a plan to correct failures highlighted in a state audit. The agency failed to do a number of things, including failing to complete criminal background checks of parents with a history of abuse, not completing face-to-face interviews with alleged child victims in a timely manner.
One of the department's child protective investigators was making it up, falsifying reports, leaving dozens of kids at risk.
Just last year, 98 children who had prior contact with DCFS died. Today's report comes the same day state lawmakers begin to work on reforms in the wake of yet another child's tragic death.
There is a lawsuit in West Virginia that accuses state organizations of not properly caring for kids in foster care. The suit claims that children were neglected, given dangerous placements, and not given the proper resources.
But about 14% of the caseworkers falsified a record or lied about checking in on a child in DFACS custody, and 42% were negligent and inefficient in performing their assigned duties.
What kind of people take on a job that specifically is designed to help children, to protect children, and then don't go visit a child, or falsify documents, or don't keep their records?
They take your child without due process, without a judge's signature, and without a warrant. They just walk in and take your child.
Exactly.
Because they work for DPHHS, they can legally kidnap in America. As long as you have the badge from the DPHHS, folks, as long as you have a badge from this place right here, you can kidnap kids legally. I don't know how else to put it. You tell me I'm wrong. They can come and take this woman's child without a judge's signature, without a warrant, without due process.
The Indiana Court of Appeals is now blasting DCS for repeatedly violating parents' rights. The past several months, 10 separate cases were all sent back to court after DCS essentially admitted it violated parents' due process and failed to tell them the state was terminating their parental rights.
Social workers are taking kids out of homes illegally. Here's how it works. If someone from the Kentucky Cabinet of Health and Family Services believes a child needs to be removed from a home because of abuse, neglect, or drug use, they'll fill out this emergency custody order.
The system that's in place allows a worker for the cabinet to essentially create their own court order without a judge ever seeing it.
The blank orders are pre-signed by a judge, and then copies are made. All a social worker does is fill them out.
A lot of constitutional implications when you're taking someone's children away. They have a liberty interest in raising their own children. There's also, of course, serious trauma to children.
Fiscal year 2018, the Inspector General found 6 employees had either falsified case notes or provided false testimony in court.
The judge ruled last year that these agreements are unlawful and that the department violated the constitutional rights of these parents. So that's why we're looking into this.
No one's willing to say why Department of Human Services Inspector General Carolyn Ham is on leave.
Last week, an audit called out a serious rift between Ham and the investigators who have to look into fraud in the state's child care assistance program. Last week, the head of DHS's investigative unit looking into child care fraud said that perhaps as much as half of the $217 million spent on the program per year was going to fraud.
Welcome back. We have a very disturbing story of an attorney, 67-year-old grandmother who has been practicing law for 25 years. She is concerned about child separation, children being separated from their families, having their children kidnapped by CPS. And because she was talking about it, because she refused to be gagged, she has now been arrested.
They didn't call her and tell her they had filed anything. They did everything ex parte. Not even the judge in that county signed the order. That they took it to another county and got an order signed by a judge who is not even the county judge. This being able to cart your documents off by DCS workers to another county under the claim that they've got some freaking emergency, it has got to stop. It is a constitutional right to be able to parent your children and to do so in a safe and secure home without the interference with the government. And they abuse the ex parte process all the time. People have got to wrap their head around this. It is money driven. It is a bureaucracy that is feasting on our children. It is feasting on our kids. And we have got to put our foot down and we've got to go after them.
The issue is whether or not DHS as an organization routinely and intentionally violates state law, the Child Protective Services law. And from what I've seen, it does, it has, and it justifies it.
CPS's rights were basically terminated also.
Through testimony, the jury heard the horrors the 6-year-old endured while in CPS custody.
And then he was sexually abused in the placement, the foster home he's currently in. It was unanimous. It wasn't even 10-2. It was unanimous. We polled the jury. You're either going to respect that or you're not.
Right now, the 6-year-old remains in the same foster home where he was sexually abused by a 14-year-old for 3 weeks.
Our State Department has now said that our foster care system is the leading trafficker of children, and we need to pay more attention to this and listen to what we already know. These people have been informed that a child is possibly being sexually abused. They have been informed by an attorney of the court that they are breaking the law, and they are refusing to follow it. They are refusing to follow their own laws, and there's no one that I can find to hold them accountable for doing it.
My children were taken from me based on a presumption, not on facts and evidence, not on a trial. I know hundreds of parents personally who are denied visitation based on nothing more than a judge's personal opinion. The U.S. Supreme Court has determined that a parent cannot be stripped of legal rights to their children without a strict scrutiny hearing. When I told my judge I wanted a strict scrutiny hearing, she leaned into the microphone and said, "Miss O'Doherty, strict scrutiny does not apply in my courtroom." Is that the minute you walk into family court or juvenile dependency court, there's a complete disregard of due process. There's a blatant disregard for the liberty interests protected by the U.S. Constitution. And I will argue there is a willful and intentional destruction of families for profit.
At some point, adding more states to the map and showing more situations where family courts are bypassing due process to take away children becomes redundant. I mean, I've shown half the states in the union here. How many examples do we need to link this all as a large national story? This is frankly an embarrassment to mass media. This is the most embarrassing miss of the mass media in our lifetime, is the fact that as we speak, in every state, family courts are taking children, and nobody's doing anything about it. This completely marries up with the entire pedophilia thing going down. Thousands of people are being arrested on the pedophilia thing throughout the country. Also not mass media news. Why is pedophilia such a big thing? Because the pedophiles have a system of removing children from families. They can just walk in and get a free kid. We have got to come to grips with the fact this is a horrible, horrible epidemic at this point in history, and the fact that there is no one linking all these stories and stating flat out, this is one problem. This is a large system paying to remove children from homes so that they can get tracked into child sex trafficking rings. And the fact that the media has nothing to say about this is just beyond words. Actually, Nancy Schaefer had the words. It is a crime against humanity. This is a criminal act against humanity. We are stripping children out of homes. We can't even really count anymore how many children have lost in the foster care system, how many are missing, how many are found. We don't even really know the numbers. Why count? How easy is it to make children disappear if you're not even counting them? This story needs to be heard. These people are having their children removed, and nobody is helping them. And I'm not talking one or two stories here. I'm talking nationwide. Somebody responsible within the mass media needs to pick this ball up and run with it. Somebody out there needs to tell this story. This all goes back to Title IV. This is all occurring because money comes from Washington and pays these people to remove children from homes. There is financial incentive. The more children they take, the more money they get. And as long as there's money flowing, it doesn't matter how many lawsuits we have, how many agencies are looked at, or people we arrest. This will continue forever while there is money flowing out of Washington to take children. I'm doing my best to sound upbeat. I really am. The level of frustration to live at this point in history where people in America can't open their door because CPS will come in and take their children. I just don't even have words for it. We need to get behind this. If all we have is social media to bounce this video around, so be it. This needs to be fixed. This needs to be seen as an emergency. We don't need to wait 5 years for some legislation to be passed. We need to fix this now. We need to eliminate Title IV now. I really work my hardest to try to make these videos and sound upbeat and positive. But my message is pretty straightforward. We need to get the word out. People are being taken out of their homes. Children are being abducted by the government. Wake up, people. Wake up.